Hi,
Hi.
Brad. Thanks for
How
being
are
here.
you?
I'm doing great.
Great.
Okay, so I I'm really excited to have this conversation,
Yeah.
and I'm wearing what I call my Old Testament hand.
How is that?
It's got a Ten Commandments
Oh,
and a snake, and I'm actually wearing like a wilderness necklace.
okay.
So I'm really prepared
Oh, I guess
for
you
this
are.
conversation.
Yes.
Okay, we are in Act Two of
Yeah.
our Rooted series,
Yeah.
and we are on this adventure of a reading plan. Uh, what can you tell me about as we're entering Exodus and the following books that we'll read this month? Why should I be excited and why should I care?
Why
Should
should
we
you
care?
not be excited? I mean, it's
Great.
Exodus, which is great. The thing that you have to keep in mind is Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy are five separate books in our Bible, but together they make up one book called the Pentateuch.
Okay,
And as they're built together, Leviticus is the climax of all of them.
that's surprising.
Yeah, because we avoid Leviticus.
I have every time. Every
Yes,
time I've
no
tried.
one wants to go to Leviticus. However, Leviticus is the climax of those five books.
Okay.
And so the story of the whole Pentateuch is God looking for a people and God wanting to be with his people. So it starts in Genesis. We'll go all the way back. It starts in Genesis with God coming into the garden. He wants a relationship. He's at the place where he dwells. He's at home in the garden. And he has a relationship with Adam and Eve. What happens? Sin. Evil takes over. And now God is in this cosmic battle of how then do we right evil? How does good overtake evil? And so you have the tree of, we talked about this earlier, the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah.
And then that goes all the way through, that theme goes all the way through to Joseph saying, God made evil good.
Whoa.
And so he flips it around on him. And then Exodus picks up right where Genesis left off. You have a little bit of a genealogy in the beginning. Then you have a kind of a tie-in with the ark. Remember Genesis 6,
Yep.
Noah and the ark. And Exodus, you have Abraham, you have Moses in a raft going down so that's kind of like the ark symbology.
Wow.
And then it's all repeating itself. And then you have Moses coming in as the deliverer. Now there's a key part in Exodus. And in chapter 16, they get to Mount Sinai. And there's this verse that says, and God called from on top of Mount Sinai. And then Moses went up to the mountain.
Can you imagine God saying, "Hey there,
Yeah, and it scared
I'm at the top"?
it scared the tar out of the people. It was the first time since the garden that God had spoke aloud to a group of people.
Wow.
And so it's the first time that's happened. And so it's a pivotal moment of God reintroducing himself because now he has his people. He's rescued them.
Wow.
He's taken them out of Egypt. He's reintroduced himself to them. The 10 plagues of Pharaoh are ways of God saying, I'm bigger than the Egyptian gods. I'm better than that. And so he's introducing himself to him again. And now that people are getting to know him
Wow.
and get to know who God is, what's he like? That's why I said, I'm the God who brought you out. Now, he comes down and says, he sits on top of the mountain and says, Moses, come. And then from there, that's where we get the book of Leviticus. This is the law. Leviticus takes place about 1 month at Sinai.
Wow.
Then you have that picture of God on top of Sinai inviting Moses to the top. You flip to Leviticus. Now God is in a tent. If you get to the end of Genesis or end of Exodus, God I don't know if this is making sense, but you can cut it all out.
I'm following.
Okay.
I'm following.
So you have the mountain, and then it goes through, and then you have the tent of meeting at the end of Exodus.
Wow.
The end of Exodus,
So wait, that tent, is that the same as the tabernacle?
it is the tabernacle.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we have God walking in the garden. Then he visits on the mountain,
mountain.
and now he's living with the people.
Now he has a place just on the outskirts of town.
Okay, outside of town.
Outside
so
of
not
town.
with them.
Yeah, so he's kind of over there. You know where he's at because it's the place where the cloud and fire are.
Wow.
And then he invites Moses at the end of Exodus to come stand outside the tent. He's going to talk.
Okay.
Leviticus opens up with Moses outside the tent listening to God.
Okay.
Then they have the
Interesting.
law that's given. Then you have Numbers, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers. Numbers has Moses inside the tent.
Whoa.
And so
okay.
you see this progression about how God is showing the Israelites what it means to follow him. This is what's required to follow God.
Okay.
And then now that Moses is indwelling the tent with God, and then Deuteronomy is all Moses' last words of stay inside the tent.
Wow.
Don't obey the laws so you can stay in close relationship with God.
Right. So at this point, it's still like a do what I say, and then you can be with me.
He's showing them what it means to be holy.
Okay.
What it means to be set apart.
Clarification.
If in Exodus 16, and we'll get to this in a couple weeks in our sermons, he's saying this is what it means to be a priesthood.
Okay.
This is how you can represent me to everybody else. Don't kill your neighbor. Don't lie. Your bracelet has all of them. Those are just the 10 of them, the 10 words.
Yeah.
And so these are the basics of what it means to be my priest, my people.
Wow.
And then this is what it means to be holy. And Leviticus is an amplification of all 10 of those.
Okay.
So you get to 600 and whatever. There's a lot. But this is what it means to be holy and set apart.
Wow.
So you can remain in the tent in relationship with me. Okay. And then we'll get to Judges at the end of it. Right. And they leave the tent.
Wow.
They forget.
Okay. That's a ton of content to cover. And you did it. That was a great covering over it.
Fun.
That was
it's
really
fun.
Good arc. Now, what encouragement would you give to people specifically while they're walking through the more difficult parts of, let's say, Leviticus? There are some things that culturally feel odd. Mm-hmm. Maybe morally, we might say, what is going on? Why would a good God say this? Mm-hmm. What would you encourage people as they're walking through those passages?
Keep reading. Okay. The more you understand Leviticus and the intention of Leviticus, the more you're going to see what Christ and how good Christ is to us. Because what Leviticus did, what the law did was, yes, it gave them a moral framework. This is how to be human. This is how to be God's people. But it also set them up to realize the need for Christ.
Okay.
And the crazy part about all of this is the arc you see in the first 5 books is the arc we see with Christ.
Wow.
And so how he comes down to earth to dwell with us, kind of like the tent outside a camp. And then the invitation of the cross, the veil is torn. You can come into the Holy of Holies where Christ is and have a relationship with us. Wow. And then once we say yes to Jesus, we're indwelled by the Holy Spirit so that we can be with God forever. It's the same trajectory through both the first 5 books and through the Gospels is what we see. And so stick with it.
Okay.
Because in these books, you realize who God is, what he's like, what he expects from us. And it's a picture of how good Jesus is. Wow.
That is all huge.
Oh, there's so much.
So much to think of.
So much.
Brad, thank you so much for being here today.
We'll do it again.
This was fun.
Yeah.